I'm Ishiguro. I'm an employee of Fujitsu and a member of community of personal data platform named Personium. I contribute to Personium by modifying codes and by developing some sample PDS applications. Today, I'll introduce my demo application of Personium. Let me start my presentation titled Keeping a Life Log with Personium. In our life, we usually keep a lot of kind of life log, such as health data, shopping, or diary. When we use these applications, they store our data separately. To aggregate their data, you can use Personium PDS, and you can make them be utilized by other applications and selectively disclosed to third parties. For example of utilizing, you can health data and shopping data from other PDS application. For example, selectively disclosing, you can permit your doctor to see your data, but forbid your company. Here, I'm going to introduce my demonstration using Personium. In this demonstration, we think about LifeLog service using chat application. Using a chat application for keeping a LifeLog enables you to upload contents like sending message to your friends and more easily than web application. Like this. First, I sent text message. I got a good picture at Okinawa, like this. And secondly, I sent photo. This photo is that I took at Okinawa. Personium can be serve event handler. So by deploying a chatbot handler on Personium, you can make the data which is received by the chatbot be saved into your PDS immediately. This is second example. This is Sata and Dagi, which is Okinawan donuts. So then the memories stored on your PDS can be revisited in the Personium LifeLog application like this. Currently, this demo application is only for a chat application, but Personium is not designed only for chat application. You can store various kinds of data into your PDS. They can lead you to wonderful discoveries in your life. For example, job matching and schedule recommendation. Sometimes you would like to disclose your lifelog data to ask your doctor for advising. This is end of my presentation. If you have any ideas or questions, feel free to join the community and ask us. My activities on community are mainly developing applications and trying Personium server on various devices. Next presenter is Yasufumi. Please start your presentation. Thank you for listening.
I'll share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, thank you. From now, let me add more information of Personium and it's another demo briefly. Hi, I am Yasufumi Tochiori, one of the maintainers for Personium. and I'm also a software engineer at Fujitsu, a Japanese company. I'm glad to take part in MyData Global Online. Personium is personal data store software and it is open source, so anyone can be a PDS provider. Its source samples and tools are available on GitHub under Apache license. To accelerate benefit of MyData, we think app ecosystem is key. As the number of data providing apps increases, the type and amount of personal data increases as well. As data grows, data consuming services increase as well. That brings great benefits to people. Personium aims for this app ecosystem and has functions corresponding to this. And we have 4 use cases and corresponding demo apps that are released as open source. The first is an application. It's the previous demo. And the second is synchronizing big tech data with PDS. And the third is share PDS data with other people or organization. I will show this demo. This is a calendar app, demo app. This app can display a PDS calendar data, and it can synchronize Google with PDS or Office. I select Google. I already registered calendar information to Google Calendar, and now synchronizing data with PDS data with Google Calendar. So now Google data is same data is on PDS, so it can it is PDS data. Its data is shared to other people's. Next, the fourth is combining with other data in other application. It provides better service to individuals. Yeah, it's a recommendation service. It displays event information for a volunteer, and its data is recommended by his personal skills, and its schedule is recommended. Or it thinks also calendar information. It's a demo of combining various personal data, skill data, and schedule information. Combining personal data brings people benefit. All apps are available on open source. Yeah. My demo is That's all. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So, thank you, Ishiguro and Yasufumi. So I think if we do have time, maybe we can demo the line applications. If because Tim
yeah,
kind of
sure.
asked if it's real. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I think because I think the first speaker is not here, so I can just make an
Mhm.
executive decision here. You can have a little bit longer. So I
thanks.
think both you and and John, you can split it up for the now. Please go ahead.
Oh,
I'll
good.
let you know
So,
when time is up.
okay, thanks. So, Ishiguro-san, if you are ready, just give me a hands up, so we can show you the audience how the line library actually works from the thing. So it's not slideware, so it actually works. It actually works with the mobile applications.
Wait one moment. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, initially we thought that we don't have time, so that we kind of record the slide. So, yeah. But Tim was kind of asking whether it's real application or not, so we can show him and the other audience that actually how it works. Yeah. In the meantime, maybe if you're oh, you're ready. Good. Yeah.
John, do you have a question?
Yeah, yes, I wasn't following the chat, so maybe it has been answered already. Do you guys have a release timeline? Do you have any specific milestones that you are going to be developing in the coming months?
Yeah, actually, the whole thing, it's we're just a platform, so the major milestone would be just fixing whatever the bugs is, and also whatever integration we want to do with other PDS. For example, we're doing the common endpoint personal data storage version 2. So once you're ready, then we'll be able to talk with Own Your Data and Freezer and other people. And then on the background, we're also working with other communities, so that and so the if you want to follow up what's going on, you can check out our Personium webpage with the GitHub. So basically, it's working already, and then we kind of sell it in the enterprise version and also open source versions.
And I have a follow-up question on the technology part. When you share the information with third parties, whoever it is, are you sharing the information in raw, or are you providing any sort of implementation ABC type or zero knowledge proof? As in, are you sharing the data as it is, or are you sharing credentials and or claims?
Actually, in Personium, you can put anything in it. So that's why for the very basic one, when you put your own data there and want to share it, you can set up your access control so that it will be role-based, and then you will be able to select whoever the target is to share it. And then if you're more advanced and the application developer can provide the credentials and everything like the DID for you, then the user will be able to use the DID and credentials to share with some other people. So it depends on the how the service will provide, because we're just the platform, the technology, and then the guy who provides the service has to do it themselves.
Right. Have you looked into partnerships that you can establish with not exactly similar platforms, but platforms that could be complementary to speed up a little bit the kind of services that you can provide?
Yes, we're always looking to work with other people. For example, we work with the Swarm decentralized storage from the Data Fund community. So like it's always working together, because Personium is the one of the MyData operators, and we always see the interoperability of PDS in different levels as our mission. So we're glad to work with any other teams. For example, we also work with numbers in Taiwan. So feel free to contact us if you're interested. the other guy from here, Simono Akio, is the founder of Personium. So if you contact me or him, then we'll be able to discuss something. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I'll reach out after the presentation. Yeah.
Yeah, please. Yeah. So I think Ishiguro is ready.
You guys have 10
Tochiori-san,
more
can
minutes.
you
can go.
Tochiori-san, can you stop sharing your screen so that maybe Ishiguro-san can show his screen bigger? Yeah.
I'll try demonstrate in my web camera. Can you see my web camera?
Yes.
And this is my smartphone, and this is my LINE application. So I can send my photo like this. This. So in this timeline, the photo is posted, and open my Personium apply in browser and log in. So you can see the icon of Personium lifelog and tap this. So the posted data, now I posted this photo to LINE and saved to my PDS, and I can see here this photo. So this photo is organized by the posted date. So you can select the date of photographs and can be revisited your memories by the selecting date. Thank you.
Delicious ramen. Thank you, Ishiguro-san, for the short notice. Yeah. So actually, there's different use case for this. For me, I use it as my daily mental log. So whatever, because you know that the work is very stressful in Japan. So I record whatever my feeling and take a pictures of whatever it is on that day, and then I will be able to take a look at the whole week or the whole month, how I've been doing, and then I will be able to see that, hey, how come every Monday I'm always blue or whatever. So something like that, it can be for personal use. And then if you share it with your HR from the company, then the HR will be able to see that, hey, this guy is working too much, and then the manager will be gut scout and then like try to let you work less. So a lot of different use cases you can use with the PDS. So hopefully you can think of one, and then we can do whatever together. So thanks a lot, presentations. That's all from us. We can pass the ball to the next one.
Any questions? I just want to make sure there, if there are any questions. Any questions for this team? Okay, I guess we're good. So yes, let's move to the next demo. Yeah, thank you guys. And if if we have time left, if you want to have an open discussion, we can do that at the end of the Ron's demo. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, so the next presenter, we have John from the IO Foundation. So I'll just give the floor to you, John, and since you have a little bit more time too, I think you can have 25 minutes. So if you wanted to present the two things you wanted to present, please feel free to do so.
Hi everyone, my name is John. I manage an organization called the IO Foundation. We are a nonprofit advocating for data-centric digital rights. That would be me over there.
John, your presenter view is blocking the deck. We can see your screen, but
really?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
That's strange. Okay. How about now? Is it better now?
Yeah. Now it's good. Now.
That's strange. Okay, so I'll do without the presenter view. That's fine. Big boy. So today I wanted to talk to you about the next generation of human rights and digital rights defenders, which for us are programmers. And what could we provide them as 3 guiding principles for them to become those agents of change that we are hoping they should become. Before that, I would like to establish what is a little bit the problem that we have. And the problem that we have is that despite the fact that we have all of these very interesting buzzwords around and all of these very interesting initiatives that we call data protection laws, the reality is that they don't really protect much the users because they are issued in a way that is essentially a policy. And we haven't seen so far none of them being issued accompanied by a technical standard that we can use as a reference in order to be able to standardize verification of compliance. And if you think about it, it's pretty much a very strange scenario because any product that you want to put into the market will always go through a number of verifications. And there's typically an agency in every jurisdiction, in every government, that makes sure, for instance, that cars comply with the certain requirements, technical requirements, before being put into the market. And the same would happen, for instance, when it comes to smartphones. The hardware itself gets tested. Interestingly enough, user-consumer software isn't. And that leads to the problem of having the burden of observation into the shoulders of the users, which is a pretty much ludicrous proposition that for some reason we are not able to get out of. And it also is it's building up a very interesting fallacy, which is essentially users have to be nothing short of a hacker. And you need to know how your device works. You need to know how to update it. You need to know what a malware is. You need to know how to protect yourself against malware. You need to know how to update, how to read the different permissions that they're asking you to access all of your personal data. You need to also know what your data means. What is the value of the data? What is a data breach? When does it happen? You need to be informed about it. And not all data protection laws have any provision to actually inform you about it. And even if you knew, you need to understand very clearly what does that imply, and then find a lawyer if you wish to seek for some sort of remedy and have the money to prosecute the company. And it's just an absolutely preposterous situation where basically people end up not caring anymore. So what we think here is that you should be able to have software that is provided to you in a way that is designed so that it protects you from the onset, from the way it is architected. And the people who are actually going to be doing that are programmers. Programmers for the IO Foundation, we identify them as the next generation of human rights and digital rights defenders. You can think about it as the people who are making sure that buildings don't collapse on top of your head are architects. And the reason why they can do that is because they have been in touch with the consequences of improperly architecting a building and what could that entail for the users. Unfortunately, programmers, traditionally speaking, haven't been exposed to understanding what are exactly the consequences of the architectures that they design. They also typically sort of work in isolation, as in you would have a bunch of people working for the back end and another bunch of people working for the front end, and not necessarily having a 360 degrees overview of what is the whole product that you're trying to design. And that comes with direct consequences, as we are experiencing on a daily basis. So if we think about how we're going to be making sure that the programmers can understand their role as agents of change of the future, we need to first have a very quick overview at what rights mean and how they get to exist. This diagram that you have here is extremely simplified, okay? That the conversation could go on for a couple of hours easily. Now, what I want you to look at the top left is you can see that there's people that generate data, and the data conforms what we understand nowadays as a digital twin, digital shadow, whatever you want to call it. We have understood many decades, centuries ago, that people are exposed to a number of harms, and harms essentially are a very simple concept: is whatever situation, whatever risk that can actually bring you closer to your death. Okay, it's it's very much that. If you think about any possible harm that has been ever defined, and you start looking down the road about what does it translate into, at some point you get into the ultimate consequence is someone dying sooner than earlier. So sooner than later, sorry. Now, once you have your list of harms, what you can do is try to have a proactive approach and try to figure out what are the regulations, what are the rights that I need to try to provide to these people so that I minimize the risk of those harms to happen. And once you have defined those rights, then you have to look into what are the duties from a number of stakeholders to make sure that those rights are implemented. This as the column that you see as defined by. And then the enactment is essentially by governments and organizations. Now, if we look into the digital part, the way we look at it in the IO Foundation is that we are not looking at the harm that you can cause to people. We are looking at the harm that you can cause to data as an entity itself. And there isn't a consensus right now about exactly what are the harms that you can cause into data. And of course, we don't have the answers on what are the ultimate consequences. Now, if we will be able to define those harms, we could then start establishing what would be the rights, and then pass the ball to who has to be defining it. And of course, there has to be a huge participation by technologists, because after all, that's the scene and the environment where we move. And then the enactment is to be implemented by the usual stakeholders and involve programmers into the mix once and for all. Now, before I continue, I would like to make a very quick distinction between rights and ethics. Our organization does not pay attention to ethics, and I personally am a little bit allergic to ethics, because ethics are linked to values. And everyone can have a very different set of values. And so it becomes very, very difficult to actually have a standard way to measure how positive an impact or how negative an impact has been a specific technology into a population. Whereas rights are much more internationally understood and much more across the board evaluation, because basically no one really wants to die. If you think about any single advancement in science or even on societal advancements, everything we try to do is basically to expand our lifespan. And that's something that you can't identify anywhere in the world. So always be mindful. Every time you hear, this new ethics thing coming up, I always wonder what's the agenda behind it and what is exactly that they want to pursue. So you will always hear me talking about rights and barely ever about ethics. Now, we want to be able to instill into programmers a number of principles. And the first one is 3 principles. The first one is I am my data, which sounds like a very small or a very simple oxymoron. It actually comes with some quite interesting consequences. If you think about the fact that any data point requires to be fully contextualized before it has any meaning and any value for the user or for any third party, it basically means that I cannot detach myself from my data, that there is a very intricate and intimate connection. And again, if you sever that connection, you lose the value. So you really have to maintain it at any given time. So that, for instance, you can exercise agency over your data. Now, if you think about it, physical people have rights enshrined by the UDHR or by the Constitution according to their jurisdiction. And of course, we are trying to talk always here about governments that are run by so-called democracies. In other circumstances, of course, the situation is very different. Now, the question here is, if I have rights and governments have duties of care to, for instance, make sure that they build hospitals to ensure that I have access to healthcare, which is a right that I have, well, the question would be, why would governments not also implement a cloud infrastructure that allows for my data to be protected properly? And so if a third party wants to have access to it, there's checks and balances to make sure that that is not actually done in an improper way. The second principle is end remedy. And this basically means be proactive when you architect a solution so that you don't need to get into the remedy part. Why do I want to be having the ability to go and sue Facebook if they don't delete my data, if I had the possibility of make them follow an open standard that when I do my last click on their platform, actually deletes my data, and I don't have to worry about how it works. Think about it. I mean, I don't think too many people in this room know how the ABA system, the brake system on your car actually functions. It just works. And that's what you need to do when you action the pedal, your car starts braking. That's pretty much what we want for any single technology. And unfortunately, that's not the general implementation at the moment. And the third principle is essentially a holistic view on making sure that if people have a number of rights that are enshrined to them, the architecture should be considering them by design. It's not privacy by design anymore, guys. It's rights by design. You have to look a little bit further than that. Now, the problem that we have with all of this is that because we don't have a list of digital harms, we can't create a list of digital rights, and therefore we cannot incorporate this into the syllabus of academia for computer science, for instance, so that people understand exactly what's going on and how can they harm users through the software. Think that architects, for instance, when they go to the university, know exactly the kind of harms they can create, and therefore they make sure that a building doesn't collapse on top of you. We cannot instill any of this mentality, any of these views to programmers nowadays, because we don't have a base to proceed with that. And the reason why we need to do this is because it's been quite some time already that we are not the people anymore. We are actually the cyborgs. And if anyone believes that this is an exaggeration, I would ask you to give me your smartphone for a week, and I will ask you this question again after that. We tend to think about cyborgs like we see in the movies, with the robotic arm and so forth, but essentially you don't need to have something that is embedded in your body to have become part of your life. Smartphones right now give you access to communication and to people and to services that are essentially beyond what we have ever thought a few years back. And the only difference is the interface, which is admittedly very bad nowadays, because your thumb, your fingers, and your eyes are not a very good interface with your smartphone. But think about what's going on with Neurowave, I think it was, the Elon Musk company that just launched not long ago a brain interface. If we don't have an infrastructure and a mentality to start influencing open standard working groups where we can start putting this kind of concepts on the table, we will not have technology that is proactively designed to protect. Now, I would like to part with this joke that I always love. I would love to change the world, but no one has given me the source code. That is very true for the physical world that we live in. Is actually not true when it comes to technology. We do have the source code. We do get to say what are the rules in that particular micro universe. So might as well do it properly, so we don't need to have any need for remedy, that people are protected and that their rights are designed, implemented directly into the technology. Thank you for your attention, and we move into a Q&A if anyone has any questions.
Anyone have any
this thing
questions?
right now.
There's a few. I think Vivi had a comment. I'm not sure if you want to respond to it, but yeah, there's a comment, not a question.
Sorry, I'm going to stop sharing, because once you share, I don't see the chat or anything, so I can't see. Okay, hold on. So
yeah.
where are the questions? Oh, Vivi, yes, go on live. Yes.
Hi, yeah, so I'm an ethicist, and I love ethics. I love everything about ethics, and I think it should be everywhere and in everyone's minds all the time. So my kind of provocative comment to your commentary there was that rights are just legal encodings of a specific set of ethics. Like, you can't. I think it makes things a little bit easier to focus on rights, but you can't escape ethics altogether.
I agree with you that when it comes to the final implementation in a specific culture, the ethics part cannot be avoided, because that's the values that people are going to be working around. That's not the point. But my point is that when you try to, for instance, look into standardization, you wouldn't be applying ethics, for instance, into how the Russian space agency is implementing a piece of the next ISS module that is going to be assembled in France and then supervised by someone in Spain. My point with that is that when you want to look into standards, you need to find something that is going to be across the board no matter what, and independently of the culture, and independently of the values. I'm not dismissing ethics as a system itself for societies or for cultures. I'm concerned about the application of ethics in technology, and I agree with you that there's a component of ethics when it comes to considering rights. But the way I really try to simplify what a right is, because it's always a very, it's not necessarily an easy concept to grasp, is I really try to simplify it to the point of survival. Mm-hmm. It's essentially, even if it is a mental aggression that you create into someone, that mental aggression can cause depression. That depression can lead you into bad decisions, those bad decisions into bad malnutrition, and at some point, death. And I know it's very crude to think about, death as a concept, something that typically we don't want to look into, because, it sort of causes a bit of a awkward situation of awkward thinking. Not too many people want to think about their how to say in English, how finite their time is going to be.
Their mortality, yeah.
Their mortality, exactly. I was looking for that word, thank you. And the thing is, the cool thing of it is that it's something that affects every single alive entity. And so you can relate into, well, we're going to be taking a number of commonalities that we all share around the world, because our technology and our data is basically going all around the world, and data itself doesn't care about values. And so, I mean, on itself, because data has no consciousness and everything, so we can, unpacking that basically really takes about a couple of hours easy. And it's very much trying to find a way so that, let me put it this way. The example that I was giving before about the smartphones, mm-hmm. the hardware gets to be certified in a specific jurisdiction and gets the sticker of a specific jurisdiction, right? Now, let's say, for instance, Malaysia, where I'm based. Malaysia government doesn't have the capacity by far to actually establish what is the absolute value to make sure that radiation, the ionizing radiation, is not going to be as high as to generate cancer into a citizen. They require of international research and international agreements. And so what you have is a working group that has been figuring all those things, sets the pace, and then each government gets that document as a reference and starts implementing their own, what's going to be happening according to their own spectrum in their countries and so forth. But the main commonality is that everyone is looking at the same values and the same tolerance values. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so that's what I'm looking at, is to try to find something that is so common that can really be applied by everybody. And then you do your own implementation locally according to whichever casuistic you have in your jurisdiction. And, the values that you may have in your culture, of course.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I will just add one thing, that when you kind of want to find this commonality and you find it in death, something that has come up a lot in, for example, in the context of COVID as well, is that we also have different conceptions of what constitutes good life, right? So yeah. Quality and quantity of life are two different things. So just because someone dies sooner doesn't mean it's terrible if the continuation of that life would have been incredibly painful. So my point here is that I applaud the sort of quest for simplicity and for unifying factors, and that there are just so many questions, which is why I find ethics so fascinating, basically. But yeah, thank you very much.
I will say to that as a follow-up that I get what you mean, and I'm not advocating that someone should survive no matter what. I think that there's a conversation to be had about, when is it that you want to end your own life, euthanasia and whatnot. That's the way I simplify that, and I really try to simplify, not because I want to remove complexities, but essentially because I want to make it palatable for everybody so that everyone can actually, jump into that particular thought, is that once you're gone, you're gone. At least until now. I mean, I'm not saying that tomorrow we're not going to get into Black Mirror situation and we have, all the solutions. And so once a choice is made, at this point, there is no point of return. And so our conception so far has been to try to keep life as long as possible. And then comes the consideration as to when I decide to jump out of the train. Of the train of life. I'm not talking suicide here. I'm talking about, I'm provided with a system to carry on, and then I become my consciousness and my self-decision decides, well, I had enough, or I want to keep carrying on. But at least you have the chance and the ability to carry on if so you wish.
Thanks. Welcome.
Thanks for the question.
Any further questions out of the presentation, or the wonderful discussion that they just have?
I would also maybe recommend that, let me see if I can find the direct link so people don't need to go around. If you guys want to see a bit more about what we do in terms of data-centric digital rights, there's an article there that I published a few months ago about the advocacy itself, and it sort of describes the principles and what surrounds the advocacy itself.
Any further questions? Jean, I know that you initially wanted to present Project Lockdown. I'm not sure if it's it's related to your presentation. You can still have like five
I can talk about it because I didn't. So we have I have a long presentation that we presented last week in Gov0 Summit and a few days early into Bread and Net. But I mean that one is literally an hour and a half, so I'm not going to get into that. I didn't shorten it because we were supposed to be concentrated only on one. What I can do is I can discuss a little bit about what is it just there in voice. So as a result of when the pandemic exploded. We organically started putting together a project that initially was focusing on looking into what were the policies. So, sorry, we're trying to figure out how much the world was clamping down, because all of a sudden everyone was getting into lockdown. From a very open world, all of a sudden we had a very close and narrow planet. Everyone was sort of isolating and so forth. And the question was, well, it's cool to actually have as many numbers that everyone is giving us, reported cases, reported deaths, and so forth. That's a piece of the story. Now we were more interested on knowing how are governments reacting to those numbers. What are the policies that they are implementing? And our suspicion was that some governments were going to take this as a very good opportunity to actually attack rights with the excuse of the lockdown. And we started looking into a number of data points based on official pronouncements on specific regulations coming from governments. And we measured about 35 data points. And as things grew up, we were deciding, okay, but how do we justify or how do we explain exactly what's the motivation or the logic behind choosing those specific 35 data points? And what we realized very, very quickly is that instinctively we had selected data points that were related to a specific human right. And so the logical evolution for the platform was to, which is what we are building right now, is to turn the platform into a global rights observatory, not just only concentrated on policies issued by the COVID-19, what they call NPIs, non-pharmaceutical interventions, but also looked into other things and start putting into the mix indicators of digital rights and things such as internet governance and so forth. The project really grew beyond our expectations. At some point, we were 80 volunteers. It has been a volunteer-led project from the very beginning. We span right now, we are 55 at the moment, and we span over 15 time zones. So it's quite a challenge when it comes to managing the whole thing. I'll put the links now on the chat for the website and also for the GitHub repo. We participated into the EU versus virus hackathon that happened in May, and we got out of the winners list. Ever since, we've been part of the European Innovation Council platform, and we analyzed what's out there in terms of similar platforms, and really we have two key elements that set us apart. The first one, as I was mentioning before, all core data points are based to a specific right. And the second one is that we concentrate, I'm not going to say exclusively, and that this, again, it's a topic to unpack much more calmly. We, however, concentrate as much as we can into official government pronouncements. And the reason is because the data that we provide, we want to give it with legal merit, and nothing else other than official pronouncements has legal merit. We've been quite well received in other spaces in civil society. So the presentation in Bread and Net and Gov0 Summit went pretty well. Now we are just waiting for other events to present in the weeks to come. If anyone is interested on the project, Lucy has already given there the link. You should be able to find there the link to the GitHub, but I'm also going to be putting it here. And if you go to the issues, you can filter the labels by technical issues, but also by skill positions that we're looking for and other needs that the project is having. We are essentially trying to open source and crowdsource the project as much as possible. Even if someone just wants to contribute with one specific issue, or they can connect us with a specific organization, that's already collaboration that they can do. We're trying to set up a model where everyone can participate and be part of the platform itself. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thanks, John. Any questions? Any comments?
Yes, actually, Chris Lee from MyData Korea and I are kind of like creating MyData Hub Asia. So since Jean, you're in Malaysia, then probably
Yes.
we can get together to see if there's anything we can do. Because my interest is in digital identity for the needed people, like the underrepresented people or indigenous people. And I work closely with open development in Cambodia. And so maybe we can have some chat.
Well, in fact, Arki and Prue were part of the first partners that joined the project and started helping. Yeah, from the very beginning.
Great.
We had support from Net Mission. National Democratic Institute has been supporting us for being under the Cloudflare Project Galileo. We are collaborating with Code for All. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening. The website is being now, the next version of the website is being under development. They're basically testing it right now before we release. We are developing, we are in fact building from scratch the mapping platform again, because we want to change and incorporate certain things and get rid of some technical decisions that were not appropriate back in the days. But seriously, the project has grown way beyond what we were expecting. And when we started, we really needed to release as soon as possible. So precipitation always leads into certain decisions that are not necessarily good for us, for scaling and for the future. And now we're just basically doing things, allow me to say properly, let's put it that way, so that we can actually go somewhere in the future. There's very high hopes in the team to be able to deliver a platform that is going to be able to inform citizens about what rights are going to be looking like. And if you look at the map, the time slider allows you to go into the future. And so we don't use any predictive algorithm. What the premise is very simple. If nothing changes today, this is how the world is going to look like tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And that's very powerful because you are not making any prediction or, this may or may not happen. No, this is actually what's going to happen if no one changes any policies. So if you're not happy with it, do something about it. And one of the things that we want to do is to be able to provide a list, call it a marketplace, but it's not like you're selling anything. It's just basically a way to connect citizens that may feel like wanting to engage with a specific conversation with NGOs on the ground that might be actually the proper recipient for that specific energy. Because a lot of times, someone wants to do something, they don't necessarily know who to address. Mm-hmm. And so by being able to look into that, the hope is that you're going to be able to observe what is going to look fishy. So for instance, one thing that we are developing now is what we call red flags, where we establish a number of criteria. Basically, you can call it triggers. And any of those criteria happen, we are going to be marking like this looks fishy. We may want to have to keep an eye on this. For instance, there's a data point that measures the increase of military presence, which is legit if you're trying to enforce a lockdown for as long as the lockdown actually happens. So I can understand the government wants to ask the military to come in so they can barricade and put military hospitals and so forth. That's actually a helpful situation. Now, if you issue that policy with no end date, that sounds fishy. That's problematic. And so we are looking into all of those, and that's going to be coming, we estimate, a couple of months before we have that implemented, since we are starting from scratch.
Pretty cool. And please, if you haven't joined the MyData Global Slack, join us, and you will find lots of people. Oh, cool. Because a lot of us here is from open knowledge, and then open data and personal data actually works hands in hand. So feel free to collaborate with us, and I will contact you also if we have more solid idea for the Hypatia. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dixon.
Thank you. We have like 5 minutes left. Any final comments, final thoughts? Not as we have to be, relevant to the presentations. But if you wanted to say something or talk to someone on this platform, please feel free to do so. We have like 5 minutes left. No questions? No comments? Okay, cool. So the presenters, I believe the best way to reach out to you is join the MyData global Slack and just search your name. Is that correct?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And if while you're not member, please join the MyData member, and it's pay whatever you want from the minimum wage of your country. And if you don't want to join, then also just check out our MyData decorations, and it's very nice and cool. And then all the passionate people are there. So sign the decorations, and then hear what we have to say. Thank you.
Great advertising. great wrap up. Just want to make sure, yeah, because I saw John was naming Timu. Timu, do you want to have to say something? I'm not sure if you have any jokes you wanted to throw into the last few minutes. If he's still on the call. If he is.
Oh, you wanted jokes from me, huh? I'm sorry. I'm just about to go to sleep, so I'm just here with the cats.
No worries. Sorry, I was calling you out.
No jokes from me at the moment. Sorry about that.
Internet and cats, who would have?
Oh no, it was Jean who was first saying that I need to throw some jokes. There's still 3 minutes left of the DJ, by the way. So if you didn't check it out, suggest you check it.
Okay, great. So probably I shouldn't keep people in this room, but yeah, thank you, thank you for joining. I know it's pretty late in Europe, so I won't keep it ever. Sorry.
And it was great to hear and see from you both, from Personium and from the IO Foundation. And also thanks for doing the lockdown demo in such a short notice. It was cool to see as well. So thanks indeed.
Thank you for, thanks to MyData global team for putting together this amazing conference. So I guess we're just, we're not keeping people any further. And thank you everyone, like the speakers and for the audience for joining us today. And if the presenters, if you haven't submitted your deck, please do so. I think that's pretty much, the only logistics that is there. Okay, cool. I think that's it for today. And thanks everyone. Have a good weekend.
Yeah. Thank you, Lucy.